all those announcements and to see the many good things that you guys are doing here and the many opportunities that you have to learn your faith. I think I mentioned last year that when I was in college, I was not Catholic and was working to, frankly, convert a lot of the Catholics on campus. And so it really is encouraging to see organizations like this here at Bowling Green that are helping the Catholics to know their faith, learn their faith, and live it. And so kudos to you, and I'm excited to go back to the Catholic Center and tell the bishop the many good things that you're doing. I was told to speak on the life issues, abortion, euthanasia, and the death penalty, and to do it in 30 minutes and be exciting and inspirational and funny all at the same time.
Yeah. Do it.
In 30 minutes, that's a tall order. So I am a father of 2 with 1 on the way in January, and I have a little daughter at 3 and a little son. He's about 16 months, and he's starting to waddle around, and he loves books. He just loves them. And one of the things I'm noticing as a dad is children always put the letter A after every word. So it's cuppa and booka, and there's always, it's not book, it's booka. So one of his favorite activities is to go and grab books and come sit on my lap, and we read the books, and sometimes he sits by himself and just flips through and pretends like he's reading at a very young age. Well, he was really inspirational for how I thought we could look at this talk tonight in a Dr. Seuss book called Horton Hears a Who. So we got it. We all have to take a second and get in touch with our inner child and remember this Dr. Seuss book, Horton Hears a Who. Okay? Now, we don't have time because I only have a short amount to be able to go through the whole book. But what you remember is there is an elephant named Horton, and he is out one day and he finds a speck of dust. And on that speck of dust, he hears a voice. And he hears a very tiny voice because there's an elephant, giant ears. So he's got this this sense of hearing that he can hear what no one else can hear. So he can't see what's on this speck of dust, but he hears this voice, and he surmises that there must be a little person on this speck of dust. Well, there's a kangaroo who comes and says, "Oh, what are you, this crazy person? This possibly can't be a person on this little speck of dust." And Horton says, you remember what his famous line is? A person's a person, no matter how small. This is really everything we need to know about the pro-life movement, everything we need to know about teachings, religious or philosophical. You all learn from Dr. Seuss. A person is a person, no matter how small. Throughout our history, we have really struggled, not only the United States history, but the worldwide history, with the definition of person. So we could even stop a person is a person. You recall on our own country, when we wrote our own Constitution, we defined a certain segment of our society, the African Americans, the black slaves, as not a person, but 2/3 a person. During World War II, this idea of person and in the Nazi Germany, Jewish people were branded with a number. Why? They weren't viewed as a person; they were viewed as property. And if you brand, it shows that you can do anything with it. That's yours. So this concept of what defines and what is a person is a rather significant thing. And we as Catholics, of course, we believe in the inherent dignity and worth of all God's children, all people, from conception to natural death, without exception, through conception to natural death. All right? We believe that we are created in God's image and God's likeness, and it is not for us to play God and to determine who is and who's not a person. And it doesn't matter how large one is or how small one is. whether you can see or whether you can't see. You know, I'll never forget when I was able to see the ultrasound of my children. It is a moving experience when you first see this little peanut in the womb and you can hear a heartbeat and you're like, wow. And to think that in our country we can take a child at any stage of pregnancy, a child can be aborted, is a real tragedy. It's a real tragedy. So as Catholics, we believe in the gospel of life. We believe that every human life should be defended and protected. And not just, we don't just say that, we believe it should be defended and protected in law. These life issues are not just a religious issue. That we believe that it's a natural law issue. That whether you're Catholic or Christian or Muslim or religious, that there's something inherently given to all and can be recognized by all, that human life has value and worth. Remember, our Declaration of Independence says the very same thing. You know, endowed by our Creator, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And it is that first thing, life, that is under attack. As Catholics, we have, obviously, we do a lot to defend life, right? We have a lot to help life and protect life and make life worth living. We do a lot in healthcare. We do a lot to feed the poor. We do a lot to alleviate suffering. But there are certain issues that we're going to focus on today, and that would be abortion, euthanasia, and death penalty. Now, let me do the one big sort of academic concept before we get into them specifically. So if there's a time where you might get a little bored, this is it. So you got to really perk up a second, all right? We as Catholics believe in certain things that are intrinsically evil on their face, meaning that objectively they are always wrong and intrinsically wrong no matter what, right? So Catholics aren't really moral relativists. We believe that there is such thing as truth, and we believe that there are certain things that just in the very act themselves, are wrong. Okay? There are other things that we believe and we teach to be something that we're not promoting or we would argue against, but aren't intrinsically evil, but I would argue and put them in a category of what I would call prudential judgment. Meaning that our pastoral judgment has led us to the conclusion that there's no longer a reason for a particular action. So let me break this down into concrete terms so you know what I'm talking about. There are issues like abortion, euthanasia, embryonic stem cell research, certain things that we as Catholics are going to say are always wrong. They were wrong 2,000 years ago and they're wrong today. There are other issues that we today are arguing aren't a good idea anymore, but haven't always been wrong. Capital punishment falls into that category. Okay? So let's talk about capital punishment first to see why. The church today argues that we are against capital punishment in the sense that we believe that there's no longer a need in the United States and in most developed world to take a life by means of capital punishment, and however that may be done. But at one time, capital punishment was viewed as something that the sovereign, the state, the country, may have to use to protect or defend itself. Okay? So if we lived in a country where we didn't have prisons, we couldn't lock people up, or we had someone that was a mass murderer, and we couldn't trust that they were going to stay locked up and they're going to go out and murder people, in that case, capital punishment would be acceptable. And that's Catholic teaching. But in today's world, where we can lock people up, where it's actually cheaper to lock someone up for life than it is to kill them, John Paul II has argued that there really is no reason to do capital punishment any longer, especially in a country like the United States of America. Capital punishment is thought to be sort of a deterrent. So if you're going to commit a crime and that's on the table, it's a deterrent. We would argue it's not really an effective deterrent any longer. Frankly, life in prison and everything that goes with it may be a lot bigger deterrent. Life in prison is cheaper. And we've always been concerned about the justice. Who has adequate lawyers? You know, is there a disproportionate of criminals or people who are in prison that are African American and are being killed through capital punishment? What about those who are innocent? So the church today, excuse me, would argue that capital punishment is not a good idea. Does that make sense? But you need to know, excuse me, I have a little cough. You need to know that it's one of those prudential judgments. Why do I say that? Well, oftentimes what happens is we talk about the life issues, especially around election time, everybody sort of gets really, well, they want to equate all the life issues. They want to say that everything is sort of equal. And we believe in a hierarchy of truth, right? So I would argue that we have to pray for, we have to stand up, and we have to work to end capital punishment in our nation. But we also need to make sure that we're defending and standing up on the other life issues, such as abortion. Those intrinsic evil have to go. In our country, I think in capital punishment, there's probably like 300 a year. How many you would guess, how many babies do you think are aborted a day in our country? You know?
3,000.
About 3,500 a day. So you can see just in the weight. The other thing about capital punishment is it really doesn't promote a culture of life. Right? It doesn't promote a culture of life. Now, the other issue is euthanasia. Who knows what euthanasia is? Remove life support. Is that what you were going to say? Any other definitions? Yes, sir. Physician-assisted suicide. Anything else? So euthanasia can be sort of active and sort of passive, right? Actively, it can mean that someone wants to end their life. Why? Why would they want to do this? Say again? Right, they might have a disease that's debilitating. They want to end their suffering. Right? They may be older and they think it's gonna be a huge burden on their children or society. So there's this. So assisted suicide. We think of like David Kevorkian or some of those physicians that would do that. Right? Now there's passive or sort of non-voluntary. So Terry Schiavo might be a name you've heard of, where someone's is in a vegetative state, and they refuse to give her hydration and give her food. Right? This was a huge case some years ago, where she was in a vegetative state, brain dead, but was able to breathe, was able to function. Her body was functioning. She just had to receive an IV for the food, but she was just laying there. Okay, and her husband removed the food or water. So you can see where it's sort of euthanasia in that case. This is going to become in our lifetime a huge issue. A huge issue. Why? Why do you think it's going to become a larger issue? What is happening to our population? Growing? What else? What else?
People are staying alive longer.
People are staying alive longer.
Yeah.
Now, might not know this, but that we are not growing in the United States as a population. We are in the only census because of the Hispanic immigration issue. But we as a country are having a more people that are elderly than us. Because the baby boomers, they had a lot of kids. Meaning their parents had a lot of kids and they became baby boomers. The baby boomers themselves did not have a lot of kids. The big families were no longer. What's happening is we have a society that is aging, and we don't have people underneath them to support them. So when you look at these debt battles economically, you look at Social Security, one of the problems we're having is there's not enough of us workers who are paying into the system to support those that are going to retire at the same time. So when that healthcare debate was going, one of the big issues was death panels, right? Why did this become an issue? Well, you have a whole lot of people we can't afford. And so they're saying, well, as a solution, should we give adequate medical coverage to people that, are going to die in a few years? So maybe we need to come together and decide. This is going to become a huge issue. In the Netherlands, this is already a huge issue. Matter of fact, in the Netherlands, they have determined that you don't have to have a significant medical condition. You can have emotional trauma, you can just be lonely, or not have a really good social life. And that would be justification to actively seek assisted suicide. You can see this is a dangerous road we're going down. We believe in the value and dignity of human life. We believe even grandma deserves care, compassion. So think about they are dealing with suffering. They're struggling with suffering, and it's a perverted way of ending suffering. Now we as Catholics, what do we believe? We turn suffering on its head, don't we? Through the person of Christ on the cross, we understand that Christ redeemed suffering. And it's our role as Catholics to help alleviate suffering and the pain and the loneliness and the depression that comes with it. Right? We have a system, though, where we just put people in nursing homes and this, that, and the other because, maybe they're a burden, too hard for us. We need to change that, right? And we need to help people look at suffering in its redemptive quality as an opportunity to unite with Christ and an opportunity to grow in holiness. John Paul II, when he was dying, was really as he was dying, was a real testimony to how to live, right? And this is the model for all of us. So euthanasia is obviously something we staunchly are opposed to, and rightly so. But I need to tell you, a younger generation coming up, we hear a lot about abortion. You hear a lot about the death penalty, stem cell research, this, that, and the other. Euthanasia is going to become something that I think is going to become bigger and bigger in our country, especially as these demographic population shifts are occurring. Obviously, the last issue is abortion. How am I doing on time?
You get about 7 minutes.
Oh, good. We're doing pretty. See, I told you this is going to be quick. I want to let you know that in Lucas County, how many of you are from here? You're from the area. Everybody else is from other areas. Okay. In the area of which the school is located, 1,565 abortions last year. In our diocese alone, which is pretty expansive, 2,800 abortions last year in 2010. So 1,500. Now, do you know where the majority of abortions happen, the age range? Not teens. Early 20s. 20 to 24. There's 24% of all abortions happen in college-age years. That is significant, right? We believe in the value of life in the womb. A person is a person, no matter how small. This, my friends, is the issue of our time. This is the issue that we have to be educated on and we have to learn about. We believe that from conception, when it's a little speck of dust, that is a life. And that taking that life is just that. You're taking a life. Abortion, and I'm not going to go through the ways it happens. You can figure that out. But if you've never seen how abortion happens, it's gruesome, but it'll change your life. You should go on the internet, take a look at the pictures, and your life will be changed forever if you're on the fence on this issue. And I understand you can be on the fence. The Catholic Church also believes that on the issue of abortion, it's without exception. Meaning, we don't make exception for rape, incest, right? So you may hear a lot of people say, well, I'm against abortion except for. For us, there is no except for. A person is a person no matter how small. And while rape is a tragedy, huge tragedy, there's two people affected. Two people need protection, care, and compassion. The mother and the child. And we believe that child should be brought into the world, and if need be, if the mother can't handle it, be given over adoption. It would be the equivalent of, let's say a victim has the child, and at age 5, the child looks more like the man, the person that caused the rape. And she says, I can't take it, I'm going to kill the child. We would be outraged by that. For us, the same applies in the womb. Okay? So you need to know that as Catholics, we don't believe in the exception. And I can see where that can be challenging and difficult. But we're talking about a life. And that's really how we're looking at it. Okay? You should also know in our country, you can have an abortion at every stage. At every stage. So some think, well, no, it's just early on. At any stage in the pregnancy, you can have an abortion. And I would really encourage you to go down to 40 Days for Life. I've been there every week, and you see the women coming in, and you really want to pray. We need to also be mindful that abortion hurts two people. We think about it just the child. It hurts the woman. There's been many studies, and I've worked with many of the post-abortion healing ministries of women who are affected by abortion. And we've come to think of abortion with women as a choice. And in many ways, it's not a choice for them. They don't feel like they're making a choice. They are coming in a case of abuse. They're coming in a case they don't think they have any other options, financially or otherwise. So we need to be cognizant of the fact that we need to be supportive of these pregnant women, help them in their time of need. And this isn't any sort of thing of judgment. We realize that in many cases they don't feel like they have a choice. And we need to be there to support them and help them and to understand that this is creating psychological damage. I know my time's running short, so 2 last points. The first is, if you're on the fence, please, 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 do your due diligence and study these issues. I have pamphlets in the back for you to take if you're interested on the different life issues. Take them, read them, digest them. If there's no one here that you want to ask a question, feel free to email me. I'd be happy to do that as well. For those that, you're like, I'm pro-life, what can I do? I want to go back to our friendly Dr. Seuss to finish the story. In the story, if you remember, Horton is being attacked, and so is the dust. The kangaroo and some monkeys decide, we've got to put an end to this. So they go to get the dust, and they go to lock up Horton because he's saying things. He's hearing things. So Horton talks to the mayor of the town of Whoville, and he says, and he begged them, please don't harm all, he told them, he told the people attacking, please don't harm all my little folks who have as much right to live as us bigger folks do. And then he tells the people in Whoville, he says, if you guys get together and you make enough noise, and if you be loud enough, they will hear you, and when they hear you, they will believe. He says, Mr. Mayor, you've got to prove now that you are really there. So call a big meeting. Get everyone out. Make every who holler, make every who shout. Make every who scream. If you don't, every who is going to end up in stew. So down in the dust, the little mayor got Whoville Town Square, and he says, "We are here, we are here, we are here." Still, people don't hear. And so he says, "You've got to do more. You've got to be louder." So they get out bells, and they get out trumpets, and they get out instruments and tom-toms and cans. And you can imagine all these little who's in the Whoville making all this noise. And still, they can't be heard. Until the mayor discovers that in this little house, there is one very shirker named Jojo who is not making any noise. And he goes to Jojo and he says, "Your country depends on you." So the shirker climbs this tall tower and he cries out and he screams and he shouts. And the story goes that one small extra yoke put it over. And everyone came to hear that they were there and came to protect and to defend them. And I would end on that note. You here have an opportunity to defend the voice, these little innocent who have no voice, who can't even shout, who can't even play an instrument, and relying on you here on the college campus. And we can gather meetings, and we can get loud, and we can pray, as I hope we do. Sometimes it's going to be that one person, that one extra person, where you're sitting in your room, that we need to say, "We need your help to come out, to lend your voice to the cause, to get involved." And college is a perfect time and a needed time because the majority of abortions happen at the college age. So please, learn a lesson from Dr. Seuss. Make your voices be heard. Get involved in these issues. Don't stand on the sidelines. This is the Holocaust of our time, and we need to do something just like they did in Whoville. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful day.